builders that are out there? Because, there's some great ones out there, and you guys have to distinguish yourselves from each other. How do you do it?
Let's see if I can make this as simple as possible here. There's people that build their guitars to a price target, and there's people that build guitars to the quality of sound that their customer wants. And they're a different approach to it. One of my friends that works with Yamaha clued me into this, that the steel string guitar is loud enough that marketing will take care of the rest, right? and they sell 1 million guitars a year, and people are ready to buy it before they walk in the store because of an artist testimonial or a lifestyle association that makes you really want that and go in and do it. And those guitars are built to hit a price target, and the more you want to sell, the lower the price you go. The other way to build comes from the violin tradition, and that is manipulating the components to have them in tune with each other to allow sustain and create overtones. And sustain and overtones are the things everybody wants in their guitar. There's a lot of personal choices, but to have it last a long time, sound rich, full, colorful, that's what we all want. And there's two ways to get that. You can do it on purpose in the violin tradition by voicing and tuning as you go and assure that in each instrument, or you can make it like a piece of furniture very efficiently. But when wood in its varying densities, you can make 10 pieces exactly the same size, and they'd ring at a random frequency. And when you put a guitar together of exact sizes, it's like throwing rocks at a piano. And I don't mean that dismissively, because if you throw enough rocks at a piano, you'll get a chord occasionally or some partial harmony. And this is why we see such variance in name brand instruments. Same model, same brand, wildly different. You go look for the good one. So in our style of building, which comes from the violin tradition, we can build that instrument in tune with itself, and we can guarantee the sustain and overtones. And when you listen to this guitar being played, it's real gratifying. It's deep, it's full, it's sustaining, and a lot of us don't know how to put that in words. But there you go. So there is the difference. It's in a target and an approach. Of course, doing it our way takes a lot more time. There's more expense involved, but it does give us a degree of control over everything we do on the guitar.
Your employees have to be working at a much higher skill level too, because your employees are luthiers. They're not just factory assembly workers. Exactly. It all has to tie together. So there's personal choices in a guitar also. Like I said, anything you can manipulate on your sound system, we can manipulate in the guitar. Tone, the brighter dark quality of the guitar comes from the choice of woods. EQ, how much bass versus treble in the mix, comes from how we manipulate those and do that. The other parts of sound are generally, people are talking in wine terms. They're talking about the complexity of overtones, how rich and full it is. So and this isn't a marketing boast for us. That's how we built, and it gives us complete control over the quality of sound and the personal touches. So let's see if I can say this the way I intend it to be. I know really large manufacturers, people I love, I've worked with and around for years and years and years, and I admire what they do. And they build guitars that are well made, they hit a price target, and if you shop around, you'll get a good one, right?
Yeah.
I also know boutique builders that build in exactly the same way that Yamaha does. They use better materials, they use real care and workmanship, but again, there's quite a variety in the sound of the instrument. It's really easy to build for volume and bass. So a loud guitar with a big bass pleases a lot of people, but it's pretty limited too. So that's what we do different. It's not an easy little marketing term, to put away. To put the tagline on an ad. But we can guarantee when we build a custom guitar from somebody, for someone, that they're going to love all parts of it, including the sound. That's pretty unheard of, right? So that's mouthful.
Yeah.
That's what we do different.
Yeah.
We also use the best possible woods that we can, and like I said, reclaimed for quality of sound, and also so you sleep well at night. Can I tell you guys really quickly why old violins and old guitars sound better than new ones? There's a lot of folklore about that we see on the internet, but the biggest consideration here is once the wood leaves the living tree, the flow of the sticky tree sap stops, and that's what delivers nutrition to each cell. When the lice are rested, that sticky stuff settles to the bottom of each cell, and the piece of wood's like an apartment building that's knee deep in cold honey. And when you excite that with string energy, it's restricted. It's limited to how much vibration can go through it. But give it time, and I'm talking 25, 50, 75, 100 years, and that stuff doesn't crystallize. It polymerizes and becomes like crystal, and the wood gets more and more resonant as time goes by. So a violin that's a few hundred years old sounds spectacular in comparison to a new one. It's the same thing with guitars. So I don't want to discount the things that we've all heard about. If you play your guitar enough, it'll get better sounding. A lot of tricks that people would use on that. But the truth is, and this is science, I won't give you an opinion unless I warn you first, is that the guitar has to be excited at the frequency that either the top or the airspace creates naturally in order to have that be effective. So you can't put it in front of a speaker and have that blast it. It's the one note that excites its fundamental frequency that does that. So you can either make a guitar and wait for 100 years, or you can cheat and buy old wood. And that's our style with that.
I have found that in building solid-bodied guitars that wood counts. The wood, basically, you got this platform with vibrating strings, and what's happening at each end of the string is going into the wood, and it's being reflected back into the strings. And so you change whatever is at this end or that end, and you're going to change how the strings are vibrating. And this is really evident if you take your typical humbucking pickup. You put it in the sound hole of one of Richard's guitars, put it in one of his dreadnoughts. It has a sound. You put that in a solid body guitar, it doesn't sound the same. Why? Because it's not just about the pickup. A pickup is a window into the vibrational characteristics of the guitar and the strings on the guitar. And so, those who think that a solid body guitar is just a plank of any old wood with strings strung on it, it doesn't know what they're talking about. And they don't have literally thousands of guitars under their fingertips the way someone like Richard or I do, to know that this is true. Wood counts. And so, when we can use old wood, we use old wood. When we can use really fine mahogany, as we have on this, we do that. And I expect that these guitars, my guitars, will change over a period of years. And that change tends to be for the better. In addition to the sap crystallizing, there's another factor, and that is one of the elements of wood is hemicellulose, which is kind of like marshmallow. It's literally a sugar, it's a saccharide in the pores of the wood, and it very slowly evaporates out over the years. And one of the things that some people have been trying is driving it out faster with thermally treating the wood. And it's interesting because the thermally treated wood, it does achieve some of the characteristics of naturally aged wood. The stiffness to weight ratio improves, the overall strength decreases, but the weight decreases faster than the strength. So the stiffness to weight ratio improves. And as long as you've used it in places where it's plenty strong, you come out ahead. So it's another interesting thing that I know we're both looking at these days and I'm experimenting with. And that's one of the things I love about guitar making. There's not a single day that I go into my shop that I don't learn something or find another question to get an answer to. So it's an eternally stimulating craft. And the other thing that I think we both agree on is that number one comes tone, number two comes playability. Then it's fun to make them look pretty. And it takes chops to make them look pretty, but looking pretty may help sell it, but it doesn't keep the guitar in the hands of that player. It's got to sound great, it's got to play great. And I know from seeing and playing a lot of Richard's guitars, his guitars go out the door with that same thing in mind. It's got to sound great, and he, they tune each one. Each top is tuned at Santa Cruz Guitars to make sure that it puts out a consistent, well-balanced tone of the intent of that model.
I like the way you talk. Thank you. I don't want to derail your direction in this, Brendan, but yeah.
The stream stopped and I had to restart it, turn it at 9.
Okay.
Let everyone know who's watching, just some watchers, what's going on, what we're...
Just kind of recap it.
Okay.
Who are we and what are we doing
Okay,
here?
so for those of you who've just joined us on YouTube, I'm Brendan with Heartbreaker Guitars, welcoming to the stage Richard Hoover of Santa Cruz Guitar Company and Rick Turner of Rick Turner Guitars, and my pal Juan John over there, guitar player extraordinaire. And we're discussing the Legends and Luthier instruments, which, by the way, you folks in the audience are going to get an opportunity to play. Okay, so if you stick around a little bit longer, we can
You
give these things a test
scratch it,
drive.
you bought it.
No pressure. Anyway, also Richard and Rick are going to stick around for a few afterwards, so if you want to get a picture or two, they'll take care of that. I've just got one or two more questions, and then we can break out and...
I'd like to have questions from the audience.
Oh, yeah, we will take some questions. In fact, where's Carly? Carly, can you pass the mic?
Which way?
You can use
Grab
mine.
one of the Guns N' Roses mics.
Which one?
Hand Richard line 6 and take his mic. Whoa.
This is yours. Okay. This. Actually, before we take that first question from the audience, can I ask a favor? Can Carolyn Sills please come to the stage?
Yeah.
Yes. Give her a hand. Carolyn,
And if you like Patsy Cline, you'll love Carolyn Sills.
yeah. And she's part of the heart and soul of Santa Cruz Guitar Company. Richard, I'm going to pass the mic to you. And would you say a little something?
Oh, sure. I'd like to, of course, run that into the ground and introduce Carolyn. Carolyn knows more about guitar making than most contemporary guitar makers. She's a musician herself, but she has hands-on daily from people from all over the world asking questions about their guitars. And remember, we're going to guarantee people they're going to get the sound that they want. So Carolyn is the first line of communication, and she's the one that puts people at ease, collects the information, and figures out what they're going to do. So I wanted her up here as you guys ask questions because she may be the definitive source on some of the things you come up with. I'm going to start with a statement I was going to finish up here. Another myth-busting thing is that the woods don't change the EQ, the bass to treble. There's not a more bassy wood and a more trebly wood. What the woods do is create a tone in the scale is bright, clear, and articulate to warm, dark, and blended. And you would have a personal choice in that, what you'd like. If you played, bluegrass or vocal accompaniment, the warm, blended, friendly, forgiving would be what you want. If you played a style where you want the audience to hear every note you play and all the nuance, a bright, clear, articulate would be it. But bass and treble is something we get by how we manipulate that. So that's a great one to think about as we go here. At least I think so.
Can I pass this to the audience member that had a question?